So this is what it looks like when you use a green screen.
Hey, this is my house. I want to take you to my studio where I record my videos with my Sony ZVE10. At the moment we're doing house renovations and we've done a whole lot of repainting of our house on the outside, and we're doing work on the inside, all sorts of stuff. You know, the challenge some people have, particularly when you watch YouTube, are the incredible studios that people have. But what if you don't have a studio? Well, I've got a tripod here, and I go into my garage, which is not the neatest place on planet Earth, and I've got a way of doing a studio really, really cheap and with limited space. And I'll show you what I do. For the time being. One day I'll have a studio, but I don't at the moment. But I'll show you what I do for a low cost, just a cheap tripod and a cheap backdrop, and I'll show you. Welcome to my wonderful studio. Impressive, huh? We're renovating our house, so the place is a mess. If my wife knew I was showing you this, I would be in trouble. But this is my studio right here. So each time I want to actually do some filming with a backdrop or studio sort of setting, I've got to move all of the junk that I've got around this place, because we are using this for our paint gear, for our saw, for all the tools, hammers, tools, screws, whatever, that we're working on in our renovation on our home. It's fairly major. So we need this space to work in at the moment so we can keep the house livable. And so I just take a few minutes and I move some stuff around, and within maybe 5 minutes, I've got an incredible studio, and I'll show you what I mean. I'm just filming this with my iPhone at the moment because I'm using the Sony ZVE10 as my main camera, and I will be using the Sigma 16mm f1.4 to film me with in just a few moments time. But I will not be using the sound from the camera. I'm using this. It's a Zoom HN1, and it is an audio recorder. I'll be using a Pro grade lav mic, which cost about $70, I think it was, I can't remember. And you'll notice I've got it taped at the top. The reason I've got it taped is it's got a volume control button, and that just keeps it set where I want it set, because you can actually knock it if you put it in your pocket and it's too loud or too quiet. And so that's the only reason. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a very good recorder. It works off a micro SD card in there. I just want to tell you what I'm doing here is I'm using a cheap green screen backdrop. Now, the whole thing is flimsy, it's very lightweight, and you know, but if you're not planning on, sorry about that, moving the thing around that much, it's fine. This whole thing with two lights, the frame for the screen backdrop, and three different backdrop, you know, screens. You just hang over there. They send you bulldog clips so you can clip them, but I don't need it. I just hang it over the top. It's heavy enough. And the whole thing cost on eBay $104. And so I'll try to put the link in the description here so you can buy those things. But how cheap is that? The one problem I had is that the backdrop was all folded into squares and I needed to iron it. Now you have to be very careful because it's made of a synthetic material, and an iron, a steam iron, will actually stick to it, and I found that the hard way. So I had to get an old iron and I had to turn the heat down. In the end, I hung it on the line and I got the steam iron, and I just with the steam, and I slowly, not too hot that it would stick, and I slowly took the creases out. It took about a half an hour or so. It took a long time to do it. It's a little lightweight, tubular thing.
So this is what it looks like when you use a green screen. Now, I've got my lighting set up in a less than ideal position here because of the things that are around about me. A cupboard here that's creating a shadow. If I move the light more in that direction, and also the light on this side, I'd like to take it away a little bit more, but the shadow on the screen would be a problem with green screen. So I'm working within the limitations of my environment, but it's certainly acceptable, isn't it? Here it is, and you know, here's a quick video with my smartphone I took a few seconds ago of what's around about me, and the camera, the Sony ZVE10 with the Sigma 16mm f1.4 that I'm filming this with. The thing that I'm trying to demonstrate, and isn't this backdrop awesome? How would you like to have a studio like this? Well, I got this backdrop, I think it was from Unsplash, and you're able to use their images for free. Wouldn't it be awesome to have a backdrop like this? Using a green screen, and most of the good video editing software these days, you can drop a nice backdrop in the background. So $104 for this studio. How incredible is this? For these good looks, priceless, absolutely priceless. For the way I've got the lighting, not so great, and I would probably look a bit washed out. Maybe I can deal with that in post a little bit. But I wanted to show you that this, and I'm filming this in 4K on the Sony ZVE10, and I'm not using the audio from the camera, only for consistency really. I'm using the audio from the Zoom HN recording here, H1N, the Zoom H1N, and I can't remember what I paid for this. It's quite cheap, just about 120 bucks or something or other. I'll put this in the description also, and I've got the microphone. I'm wearing a t-shirt, so it's not the ideal thing for clipping a microphone to it, and so I've got the microphone just a little bit closer to my mouth than I normally would have it. It would be better if the microphone was a bit lower, and maybe I'll do that. So I've clipped the microphone to my t-shirt, which is less than ideal, but at least I think the sound will be perhaps a little bit better. I may have to boost it at this point, but I think it'll be less distorted and what have you. And so here it is. Here it is. This is my studio. Welcome to my virtual world. In this COVID world that we are living in at the moment, and I think all of us are starting to get a little bit more freedom now that we are double vaccinated, and I'm not going to get into any disputes about it, but I think it's a good thing. But with all the challenges that we've had with COVID, it means that life has been less than ideal, hasn't it? And some people, their businesses have been dependent on them getting out and mixing with the community, and they've not been able to do that. And I know I did a recording about 18 months ago, and I really felt impressed to do it, and I did a bit of a walk and talk just with my smartphone, I think it was, and I spoke about COVID and what I felt we needed to do. And the first thing I felt we needed to do is that we needed to reevaluate. We needed to take stock. Most of us were in a lockdown. We couldn't go any more than 5 kilometers or a few miles from home, wherever you're watching this. And I did a recording, and I shared the two things that we needed to do. Number one is we needed to reevaluate. We needed to reconsider what we have. And one of the things I've learned about life, particularly when you're going through a tough time, and I'm filming this in a tough environment, at a challenging season for us, because we are possibly in the process of moving from our location next year, and we are madly renovating our house with the possibility of needing to sell that and preparing for a move. And I'm having some medical stuff done to me, which is why I'm not taking as many photographs or many videos that I'd like to do, because I've literally, it's been difficult to sit down for a while. Man's thing, I won't go into details, but so that's been happening, and I've got some knee surgery coming up early in the new year, which will kind of tie me down for a few months, and around that we're putting our affairs in order, getting our house renovated, doing things we need to do. So if we do make a move, that we can move to a different location, and then I hope to have on my bucket list is my own studio with a real backdrop and nice fancy lighting and what have you. But if you can't do that in your location, look at what I'm doing here. This is not ideal, but it works. And if you can't afford a lot of money, this costs $104 for all of this equipment. And I'm sure you possibly could get it cheaper if you looked around, or maybe even secondhand. I don't know. And the lighting is very, very cheap, but it's working for me. And you don't need to have a fancy camera like the Sony ZVE10. As much as I love it, you could do this with a green screen with your smartphone, the phone that you already have. You can do it. You can have your own awesome studio just like this with great backdrops and what have you. And so that'd be great. Getting back to my reflections of about 18 months ago, the first thing we needed to do was reevaluate. And one of the things I've learned about life is when you're going through a tough time, the one thing you need to do is to stop and think about what you've got. Think about the good things that are in your life. And you know, the best things in life aren't things, are they? They're relationships, they're people. And reevaluate the relationships that you've got. The one good thing about COVID is it caused us to stop and reconsider the good things that we have in our lives. And as I stopped and consider, I realized I may not have a lot of cash in the bank, but I'm a rich man because of the relationships that I have that will last beyond any of this stuff that we have, you know. And so it's important to do that and to look at what we've got and to appreciate, you know, when we're stripped back, you know, or when you've lost your home, or, you know, people have been through bushfires and all sorts of things, but have come out on the other side better people because they've learned to appreciate what they've got. And it's terrible that we have to go through tragedies like that to appreciate and reevaluate what we've got. But I think it's important. So I start every day of my life being thankful. I'm thankful, and I consider, the first thing I do every day is I reevaluate what I've got and I consider what I've got, and I have an attitude of gratitude. Sorry for being cheesy there, but having an attitude where we appreciate and value what we have. That's really, really important. The second thing I said when I made that video 18 months ago is that in this new season, we need to recalibrate. By that I mean we need to learn new skills, we need to upskill. And there's many businesses that have out there that have made tough decisions, and they've retooled, they've changed the way they do business, they've recalibrated, and many of them are doing really, really well now. But COVID forced them to do that. It makes me think of the story of the boll weevil. Some of you may have heard of it. There's a town somewhere in America, if I know the details I can put it on the screen, but it was the turn of the century, and they were a town, they were prosperous, they were doing well, but most of their prosperity came through cotton. And I think it was, I don't know whether it was, you know, 1917 or when it was, and if I know that, I can put it on the screen. But that town actually went through a difficult time where there was a plague of stripping locusts. And they came into that community and they wiped out their harvest, their cotton crop, absolutely decimating. You know, if you go to that town now, they have an interesting monument in the middle of that city, in the town square, and it's the monument to the boll weevil, to this locust, to whatever this grasshopper thing was. They've got this bug in the middle of their square. I think it's a woman holding this bug in a bowl, because what that boll weevil did, it forced them to retool. It forced them to recalibrate. It forced them to do things differently, and they started to grow peanuts and all sorts of stuff. And the town became ultimately even more prosperous than it was before, and so much so that they put a monument to a boll weevil in the middle of their town square. How crazy is that? But it makes a point, doesn't it? You know, I know that when COVID hit for us, I was at that time, I was leading a church. Actually, I'm a pastor before my retirement, and I was leading a church, and we were all about community. Whether you're not Christian or not is not an issue here, but it's about community. It's about being with people, and people come to your facility and they listen to you and they engage in worship or whatever it is that they do. We couldn't do that anymore. We were in lockdown, and so suddenly I had to learn really quickly in a week. Now we can't gather, and we don't know how long we'll be in these isolated positions where we can't leave our home. How are we going to engage our church? Well, being a YouTuber and very much of a novice, I had to learn to upskill really, really quickly. And I got to the point where for 3 months of my life, all I did was make videos, learn how to use brand new video editing software, new equipment, lighting, green screens, what have you. And I worked so hard. I slept very little for 3 months. And I learned in 3 months what would have taken me at least a year or more to learn. And so we got good with novice equipment at making really good videos. And as a consequence, our audience, our online audience, outnumbered our church many times. You know, our listening audience exponentially grew, and people, subscribed to our channel. People started watching us on a weekly basis, and people in countries like Japan, America, England, all over the place, Asia, different parts of Asia, almost considered us their church for that season. And that, you know, after the restrictions of COVID were removed, many of those people stayed with our YouTube channel. And so I learned a lot from that. And you've got to do that, haven't you? So here's the thought. Here I am in a less than ideal location, sitting in my garage on a budget, making awesome movies. It's awesome because you're there, not because I'm making them. You're there. Awesome movies for you, videos for you. Trying to encourage you to use the Sony ZVE10 because I think it is a great camera for videos, and I hope this proves it. Forgive me for the less than ideal lighting, and forgive me for having to use a green screen, but I hope it comes across okay, and I hope you learn something from this, that you can make the best of a difficult situation if you, first of all, if you reevaluate and be thankful, have an attitude of gratitude, and secondly, if you recalibrate, just make the tough decisions to make changes and adapt to the environment that you've now got to do the best that you can with the opportunities that are there. And you may find that you end up on the other side of this season better than you were at the start. This is Dave Palmer for Get Inspired Media, and I hope you enjoy this video, and I hope it helps you. Filmed exclusively, almost, except from some iPhone stuff, with the Sony ZVE10 with the Sigma 16mm f1.1 lens, and it's awesome. I love it. See you next time. Okay, so this is an audio sync 1 2 3 clap. Audio sync clap 1 2 3. Also, let me just add this. I have deleted my Instagram account. Yeah, I have. I've actually done it. An Instagram account that I had for 7 years, and I had over 1,900 photographs. Some of them were reasonably good, I think. You know, I've quit trying to get followers to my Instagram account. You know, if you don't get the algorithms get you. And that's what I've discovered about Instagram. And there are things I don't like about Instagram, the things I love about it. I love the friendships I've made and the connections I've made with photographers around the world. And some of those I'm going to continue to be in touch with and meet with when I'm in their part of the world and catch up with them. But there's a lot on Instagram that I don't like. Of course, it's changing to a more of a TikTok-y thing, a video thing now than photographs are saying that they're no longer a photo platform. It's about video and storytelling. And I guess that's what people want now. But I wanted an environment where I could share photographs and also interact with other photographers. And I found myself wasting a lot of time working through the minefield of stuff that they throw at you that you don't want and that I constantly tried to block. Not completely successfully, and trying to work the algorithms to work for me and also to gain a new engagement through others, and it wasn't working. And I've given up after 7 years. I don't want to play the game. I don't want to be distracted. I do not want to waste my time with Instagram trying to get followers, because you've got to work the game their way, and I don't want to do that. I want to take the photos I want to take, and I want to engage the people I want to engage my way. So I'm no longer on Instagram, and I don't regret it for a minute. So sorry if you were a friend on Instagram and you can no longer see me. If you can see me on YouTube, great. I'm still on Facebook, and of course my YouTube channel is David Palmer, and it's called Get Inspired Media. So no longer on Instagram, and I don't regret it. Otherwise, you know, here I am. So that's my reason.